Hello, everyone. It is September 5th, 2018, and this is Unfound Live. I appreciate everybody tuning into this, and if you're now watching this on YouTube because you couldn't watch it live, I appreciate you finding this particular episode of this show on YouTube and watching it. Thank you very much. Hello, Kelly and Dan and Heather, three of the first people to get in tonight. Lisa. Got a good show for you tonight. I'm going to be talking, of course, a little bit about what I did this past weekend. I'm going to finally reveal a couple pictures that I put online and what that was all about. Hello, Janet. Great to see you tonight, Janet. We have to talk again soon, Janet. I think I would like that. Dee Dee and Tracy. And who else do we have in here? Deb and Carrie. Hey, with the wave. Hello, Carrie. And Joyce. My favorite person, Joyce. Got to talk to Joyce on, what was it, Joyce? Just not too long ago, I got to talk to you again. Emily and Heather, thank you all for tuning in tonight. Then I'm going to talk about a little bit what I did this past weekend. Of course, we're going to talk about the second anniversary episode that is coming out this Friday. In commemoration of the first episode that ever aired on Unfound exactly 2 years ago this Friday. And we're going to talk about a little bit of course, true crime news. One story in particular, a listener asked me if I would comment on it tonight. Beth asked me if I would comment on it. I said absolutely, so I will be doing that. And I hope to get some good questions from all of you. Only went into this show tonight with only a few questions that I got before the show started. So if you have any questions about anything, as long as they're PG and not too personal, could be true crime related, anything related, doesn't have to be true crime, please type them, the question to me over on the side there, and I will try to get to it. Hello, Christina and Rachel and Sarah. And Sherry, hi from Georgia. Sherry, hi right back at you. Maybe as you can see in the background here, I am at a different location. So I was at my parents' for almost 6 weeks doing the show. And then, of course, I was back home for a little bit, a couple weeks doing the show. And now I'm here over at my brother and his wife's place here in Largo. I'm going to be here until probably next Wednesday, probably Wednesday afternoon. I'm going to be house sitting and dog sitting here, and maybe some of you have been with me for a while know that I do this once in a while, and I've done some shows from here. Usually I'm out in the kitchen. Can't be out in the kitchen this evening because my sister-in-law is still here in her own house, and my brother will be coming home from work very shortly, so I need a little privacy. Had to come to this back bedroom to do the show. Sarah, no, I did actually. It just looks like I got a haircut. I did not. This is actually what my hair looks like when I don't put any goop in it. I usually put gel in it and stuff. I have to tell you, this hair, like when I have it like this, it reminds me a little too much of like Farrah Fawcett or something. So I did not get a haircut. It's just I didn't take any time to put the goop in it, mainly because I'm over here at my brother's. Yeah, I know I did not invade a house. I did not break into somebody's house to do this show tonight, Carrie, although that is pretty funny. Angela, what's up? That's funny. No, Carrie, you can tease. I can take some teasing. That's good. Nobody likes to make fun of myself more than me. So that's fine. Hello, Angela and Becky, Texas. Sarah says the surfer look. Yeah, a 48-year-old surfer. I bet. Thank you. And I see some gray hairs in there too. So there you go. So I'm on remote location, and I think by the time next week rolls around, I'll probably be back at home. I think. We'll see. I do want to talk about what I was doing this past weekend. Hello, welcome, Claudia. Good to see you. I was up in Central Florida, and I was doing a little research on a case. The woman who is eventually going to be the guest for that episode, for that case, when we do it, I met her and her husband, and I think it was I'm not sure if it was a friend or another relative. Unfortunately, I can't remember. But I met these three up in a place called Weirville, eventually where we went was Altoona, Florida, not Altoona, Pennsylvania, which is a decently large city in Pennsylvania that I'm very familiar with because I have a cousin who lives near there. But we were near Altoona, Florida. And I can now reveal that the case I was doing a little research into that you will be hearing about probably within the next month, probably, is the disappearance of Lacey Wonderful. Her last name is spelled Buenfil, and she disappeared from Altoona, Florida in 2011. I had been talking to this woman, her name is Cindy, for a couple weeks, and then I had some free time on Saturday. I knew I was going to have some free time, and I said, well, you know what? It's just a couple-hour drive up there from where I live. Let me drive up there. You can show me around. You can show me where she allegedly disappeared from. You can show me, I don't want to get into much of it right at this second, but let's just say that the scenario that you've read, at least on Charlie Project or NamUs, anywhere else regarding this particular case, Lacey Wonderful's, is a lot different than what the official record is. Let's just put it that way. So we went to the area where one of the guys used to live. He's deceased now. We went to the location of where a party happened. That's where you saw that picture. It said "Keep Out" that I posted this past weekend. That is the location where this party that I think was a large determining factor in what happened to Lacey, where that's where that picture was taken. And then we went over to the convenience store where she was last seen on video. And then we also went close to the location where the official story is that this truck broke down out in the middle of nowhere in the Ocala forest. Lacey was with this guy, and she started walking for help. And that's how she disappeared. Well, we got to very close where that truck got stuck. So we went over there, and I was just looking at things, and I've looked at the map since Saturday just to see where we were. But that's the case. And I'm going to try to, if I can drive to location for any local Tampa cases from now on, I'm going to try to do that. I don't know how often that's going to happen, but I'm going to try to do that. So if you were wondering where that picture came from, that had the "Keep Out" sign or "Stay Out" sign, and had that really rundown looking trailer in the background. And I have some other pictures I haven't published yet. That has to do with the disappearance of Lacey Wonderful, who disappeared in 2011 from Altoona, Florida. I can tell you that it's a very creepy part of the state. In fact, Emily, Sherry, Joey. Who else did I miss here before I go? Emily, Sherry, Joey. Lisa, hello from Australia. Right back at you. Good day, Lisa. See, I got a little Australian in me. Diane, and thank you all for tuning in tonight. In fact, what I was going to say is we stopped at a bar that's called Crazy Eights, crazy with the K. And we were standing outside of the place, and I'm talking to Cindy, and it's like this bar is on a dirt road. It's out in the middle of nowhere. The last place you'd ever expect to find a bar. It's an official establishment. In fact, while we were there, they were getting a beer shipment in, like the big truck with the trailer pulled in, and the guy was wheeling in Bud Light and whatever else. It's a reputable business. But I pointed down this dirt road, and I could tell there were some houses back there, and I said, well, what's down this dirt road? And she goes, oh, you don't want to go down there. And I said, why? She goes, well, all you're going to see is a bunch of houses with no windows and no doors, and you're just going to see people shooting up in their front yards. That's a true story. And I said, oh, so that's where I was. And that is like kind of the area where Lacey disappeared from. And never was I more glad that, I was carrying my gun on me. Not that I didn't necessarily feel scary or anything, but I don't think that's the kind of area you'd probably want to be walking down that dirt road at night. But it certainly helped me understand some of what was going on in that case, and it's a very, very intricate, somewhat confusing case. And I can tell you, myself and Cindy, we're going to do our best to try to keep it all lined up. There are many names, many locations, all sorts of rumors and everything, once again, that you wouldn't realize if you just go and read the public accounts of what happened to Lacey. I don't believe that the public account, on the record account of how she disappeared, is accurate at all. I don't believe there is one even letter of that description that is correct. After talking to Cindy, and she has notebooks and all of these things that she showed me, and what's probably most interesting about it, this will be a first. Cindy is actually Lacey's mother-in-law, and Lacey's mother-in-law is the one that is heading up trying to figure out what happened to Lacey. That's a very interesting story on its own. Cindy, fabulous woman, got along with her great. I can't wait to have her on the program. I'm really looking forward to it. But it's a confusing case, and we're going to really have to labor to keep it to the point of being able to be understood. What's up, Lynn and Marcia and Lavonda and Carrie? Maybe some those houses need to be sure. I think they have been. Emily's asked me, is this one of the cases I recommend? Those names sound familiar. Emily? I think it is. I think it is. Now that I think about it, I think it is. You're probably right. Christy, what's up? Catherine, what's going on? Everybody, thanks for tuning in tonight. I appreciate it on this Wednesday night. I know it's kind of a busy week for everybody, especially in the United States. It's a 4-day week. And, and you should know, in podcasting world, the Labor Day weekend, school go back, this is like one of the worst times of the year to podcast as far as getting listeners and downloads, because everybody's so busy getting people back to school. Things are changing. Teachers going back to school, kids going back to school, people taking that last vacation before school starts and everything. So I appreciate everybody making time for this live show tonight. So that's what I was doing this past weekend, and you're going to hear all about it. Like I say, I'm going to say it's probably going to be about 3 weeks because, of course, we have this Friday's episode that's already done. The next Friday's interview has already been done. And I think even the case for September 21st is probably going to be one that I've already picked out. So maybe towards the end of this month, the beginning of October, we will be able to bring you the disappearance of Lacey Wonderful. In the meantime, you can look it up, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you do, whatever you read about it in the public forums is probably not close to the true story. But that's why Unfound exists. We don't take anything for granted with this. That's why I like to talk to the people who know. So when I do it, I can correct the record, change the record, or whatever else I need to do with these cases. So Judy, Maureen, and hello, everybody. So there's that. And then, so there you go. Let's just get a little business out of the way. Of course, I'm wearing an Unfound shirt over here at my brother's house. I actually wore this to the post office today, and the woman working behind the counter asked me about it. She goes, what's that? It looks like a shirt for something. And I said, yeah, I do this missing persons program. And I told her what it was, and she was very interested in that. So I'm wearing this, and this is going to have to be working on these a little bit more. I need to do a shirt for the second-year cases. I think that would be appropriate. In fact, that's probably something I'll work on while I'm over here. So that'll give me something to do. In fact, I have a lot to do. Besides the cases, I have a lot to do regarding a lot of work that has nothing to do with episodes. Dee Dee asks, do you think it's common that public accounts aren't accurate to what really happened? Boy, Dee Dee, that is a fantastic question. How long have I been doing the show? It's almost a year now. I think I started last October. I've never been asked that question, and that is, Dee Dee, fantastic question. I think that's a really good question. I would say this. I would say that no, at least from what the cases that Unfound is covered. Okay. I think that in just about every case, we find something that isn't quite the same as what has been on the public record, whether the case is 5 years old or 40 years old. My perception is that we do end up, maybe even by accident, find out that certain things that are on the record aren't necessarily true. So I guess it just depends what it means you mean by accurate. I don't mean to get into semantics here, but do I think, the main problem I have, I think, with a lot of missing persons, the public accounts, is that not a lot of names are mentioned. Because names are the way of suspects or the person that last saw the person. That's the way the public's going to be able to help out. They're going to say, hey, I know John Smith. I know Jane Doe. I didn't know she was the last person to see that guy before he disappeared. There's that. So any account that doesn't name names, at least any person who might be a suspect or something, I consider to be incomplete. But then as far as facts go, as far as dates and times and things, I think that if you go back and listen to most of Unfound's cases, we do find a lot of inaccuracies in public reports and public records. I think that's true. I'm not patting myself on the back on that. I think I understand why things get a little messed up sometimes, but when in particular Lacey Wonderful's case, it's not accurate at all. In fact, this is one of the worst ones I've ever seen. Though everyone's I've experienced between the public record and then what has actually been found out by a private person who's actually, caring about the case. And this is why I continue to say that if you really want to get to what really went on in the disappearance, you have to talk to private people. You can't talk to the cops. Because if I were to talk to the cops in Lacey Wonderful's case, they're just going to tell me what's on NamUs. What is on NamUs isn't right. So if I wanted to put a percentage, do you think it's common, once again, going back to Dee Dee's question, do you think it's common that public accounts aren't accurate to what really happened? I would say that most of them are accurate to the point that you have a general idea. I would say that most of them, I would say that probably 95% of them are not completely accurate. They're close to being accurate, probably close enough. But I would say that a small percentage of them are only are 100% correct. Once again, my experience. And of course, the more a case has been covered, the more accurate the public accounts of it are going to be. Now, for cases that aren't as well known, where there's like the paragraph, for example, on Charlie Project, if the description of the disappearance is only like that, the paragraph's only that long, then of course, we're probably going to find out a lot of things that aren't accurate that are on the public record, probably. That's a great, Dee Dee, that's a great question. I'm not saying, Megan Good is a friend of mine. She runs a fantastic site. Her site is integral to Unfound, absolutely. But, she gets her information from NamUs not all the time, sometimes. And, having been on NamUs enough regarding the case that Unfound is covered, a lot of those accounts just aren't right. They're just not right. And in fact, in a case that I know I'm going to be covering within the next few weeks, I mean, the date that the woman disappeared is off by 10 days. How does that happen? I don't know. So there you go. Sarah asks, doesn't your brother have that dog we saw before? Yes, he does. The dog's name is Kobe, and he's right outside the door to my left. Jamie, hello. Jessica, welcome. Lori, great to see you tonight, Lori. Jessica, wave right back at you. Barbara, Maureen, Shuri, okay, I'm going to ignore you. Carrie says, once you can sort fact from rumor mill. And yes, that's what I try to do. We do talk about rumors on Unfound. As you know, I ask my guests about them. But I always make sure that I think when we talk about them, I try to make sure that the listeners understand This isn't substantiated. This is just something that's going around just to throw that in there to see what you, the listeners, think about it. Is it believable? Is it not believable? But I never tried to present any rumors as fact. That doesn't help anybody. That doesn't help anybody. But I think, just once again, to Dee Dee's question, a lot of public accounts are not correct. And it's not because it's some conspiracy or anything. A lot of different reasons. Nothing's perfect. Shelly, what's going on? Good to see you. Joyce, my favorite person, Joyce, a lot of cases are law enforcement summations. That's right. And summations are not detailed accounts. It's just a summation. That's how it also could be. Emily says, my assistant Emily says, a lot of people give us names but don't want to put it out there in public. I think it's sometimes because they are scared, don't mention what's with the investigation of the suspect. It's within the family and they aren't wanting to cause problems with the family. That happens. That's certainly true. But as I talked about a couple weeks ago, I think sometimes the police essentially blackmail people not to name anything and not to say anything. And if you'd like to hear me rant on that, you can go back to the live show that's on YouTube from August 22nd, at about the 20-minute mark, to hear me talk about that. I think most of the time that people are hesitant to talk to me or to name names is because the police scare them. And they blackmail them, extort them, and as you know, a guest a person who was almost a guest recently said she felt trapped by the police, and it's horrible. So there's that. Great question though, Dee Dee. I can't believe nobody's asked that question before. But I think that you should rely. I think that if you're interested in missing persons cases, you go to NamUs, go to Charlie Project. I think they're fantastic sites. Web Sleuths, if you can deal with the format that's over there, I think they're fantastic places to find out about cases and talk about them and everything. But I do know from experience that a lot, once again, just the cases that Unfound is covered. A lot of times the accounts aren't 100% correct. So there's that. I was talking about the shirts. I brought the books with me. Actually, I shipped out some books today, which was nice. The playing cards at playingcards.com. And then I need to thank all of the recent and long-standing PayPal and Patreon supporters, some of whom have been with the program since I started the Patreon program, probably, November of last year, something like that. I think it was the end of last year. Some people have been since the beginning, and they continue to contribute. I just cannot even begin to explain how much I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Let's get to maybe another question here, and then we'll get into some recent true crime news, because one of the true crime news things is a question from a listener. Being that we just talking about NamUs, let me answer this. Alexis asks, being that NamUs has missing persons cases on there, as well as unidentified remains on the same site, do they do any cross-referencing between the two to try to solve missing persons cases or unidentified remain cases? My perception is that they do very little regarding that. I think that the people who work at NamUs, first of all, you have to understand NamUs is, there really are not that many people who work for it. I mean, it's a government website. It's a government department. It's in the Department of Justice department. I think that I was told recently that the budget is like $10 million, which sounds like a lot, but not when you're considering government work. And my perception is that they just are organizers of information. They get the information, they submit it, or people submit it themselves, and they make sure that everything's organized. And if a missing persons case is solved, they take it off. And of course, they do DNA things. I don't think that they have a team of people trying to cross-reference between this John Smith who's missing and then this John Brown with has no name, unidentified remains. I really don't believe they have anybody who does that. If they do, then I will say I'm wrong. But my perception is, and Alexis is the person who asked me this, my perception is they don't. NamUs is not an investigative agency. There may be somebody working for the FBI who does that, or some other department in the Department of Justice, but I don't think anybody who works necessarily for NamUs does that. I don't think. Jeremiah, what's going on? Good to see you here tonight, man. Good to see you. Shuri says, NamUs very understaffed and underfunded. Absolutely, 100%. Carrie says, I think NamUs depends on the public to assist in that. You're right, they do. That's totally true. But Shuri also says they're responsive, though, if you contact the advocates for the area. That's true, too. That's true, too. But they are not detectives or investigative experts. That's just not what they do. And I don't even think that that's going to be in the plans either. I think that to have people do that needs to have people who are actually committed to it, maybe even have experience with it if they're going to get paid to do it. Of course, your average person goes there, does it for free, and there's as a hobby, they're interested, they want to help. But if you're going to pay people to do it, then you're going to have to start talking about expertise and people who have detective experience. That's what I think. So there you go. Let's go to the news item that Beth, she brought this, posted this in the group, maybe Monday, Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, somewhere like that. She wanted me to talk to this about this case from Houston and Galveston, Texas, where a guy, his name was Rogelio Escobar, disappeared. And then when his sister, Dina, went to go find him, she disappeared too. And then her van, like a cargo van of some type, passenger van, was found burned out on the beach in Galveston. This happened, I think, back in August. And Beth wanted me to comment on it and what I think happened. Here's what I did. I looked as many articles as I could find. Not a lot of them are very descriptive, but here's what I understand are the facts are. And this is, I have no inside information on this case. I know as much about this case as any of you do. In fact, maybe some of you, if you're following it, you might have even known a little more than I do, which is fine. Allegedly, Rogelio, I hope I'm saying that right, Rogelio. He was a guy, an older guy who was living with his two nephews. And the nephew says that Rogelio left the house. He was walking down to a convenience store to get beer. Never came back. Okay, never came back. After a couple days, and they were figuring, well, maybe he went to a friend's of his or something. And then after a couple days, Dina, Rogelio's sister, got worried about him, and she drove over to Rogelio's house, once again, where the nephews were living. The nephew says, well, he was here, and he walked down, he left, and he came back. I thought that he might have gone over to your house. He might have gone to a friend's. I don't know where he is. Well, she says, well, then I'm going to go down to that convenience store and find out what's going on. Well, then she disappears too. Very suspicious. Moreover, what makes it even more suspicious is that once the police got involved, I think they didn't get involved until after Dina disappeared, which was a few days after Rogelio disappeared. They went down to the convenience store and got the tape for the days that Rogelio and Dina would have been there. Neither of them show up on any of the tapes. So if Rogelio did walk to the convenience store, something happened before he got there. And Dina, she drove down to the convenience store, allegedly, and something happened to her before she got to the convenience store. Now, Shelley's already written it. You have to be suspicious of the nephews. I don't think you need to be a missing persons expert to be able to determine that. What happened, I have no idea. But, you know, a guy goes to the convenience store. He doesn't get there. A woman goes to the convenience store. She doesn't get there, and she's not walking. She's driving. What is there? Some, like, you know, a black hole, a quantum singularity, if you're into Star Trek, swallowing them up between the house and the convenience store? I can't help but think that something happened with Rogelio and his nephews. And maybe Dina showed up at the wrong time, and maybe she saw something that she didn't, and then it caused them to have to do something to her as well. And remember, this is all within the same family. You know, nephews, uncle, sister. I don't know how you would go about proving or trying to think about anything else in this case. Is it possible that he started walking down there and something happened? Yes. Is it possible that she got carjacked going down there by some stranger? Yes. But both of them happening to them within a few days, and they're related, brother and sister, it just stretches my imagination a little bit. So, if Beth, if you're out there, I didn't see you in the group tonight, but if you're going to watch on YouTube later, got to believe that the nephews had something to do with it. Now, what happened? I don't know. They got in a fight. They killed Rogelio. Maybe they were figuring out what they were going to do to him, and then Dina shows up inconveniently and sees something that she shouldn't, or smells something that she shouldn't, or something, and then they have to do something to her too. But I will continue to be open to any new information regarding this. It's a strange one. It is a strange one, but there's probably a simple solution to all this. I think what I can say with a lot of support and confidence is that neither Rogelio or Dina are with us anymore. And that's sad. That's very sad. But as we all know, in as many cases that have been covered here, we know family, you know, just never know what can go wrong with families. We just don't know. Some things, especially if it's an older guy, couple younger kids, maybe they were drinking, something got out of hand. So I don't know how you could look past the nephews at this point. So there you go. And if you want to, once again, you want to look that up, it's from the Houston area, but the van was found in Galveston. Dina Escobar, S-E-S-C-O-B-A-R, and then Rogelio Escobar, and his first name is R-O-G-E-L-I-O, if you want to look that up for yourself. Let's go to another question. And if anybody has any questions, anybody watching tonight, feel free to submit a question. That one by Dee Dee was fantastic. Loved it. Oh, Michelle says, did you get your FOIA info straight? Did you have any luck? Here's what's going on with that, Michelle, is I'm waiting for – I'm going to give the FBI a couple weeks to get back to me regarding that. Maybe the beginning of next week I'll call to see if this woman who I've been talking to there has been able to get information for me regarding that. So I would not say I've had any luck, but I would also say that I haven't had any bad luck or good luck. It's just that you know, I think the common courtesy would be to give these people, I mean, they have a million other things to do. I'll give them a couple weeks to get around to talking about my FOIA and how it can be corrected. Or if, you know, if it has a chance in hell of even going through. But, so haven't heard anything. And I don't, being that she hasn't called me, I don't take that as a bad sign. I'll just call her, and she's been very responsive. So I'm hoping good things. And even if she says, you know what, we're not going to be able to do it, then I'm going to have to work on it some other way. I'm just going to have to do something else because there's a certain amount of information that I know the FBI has. I personally think that I'm entitled to see it because of the way that the information was collected. And I'm going to continue to fight for that until I get it. So there you go. Carrie asked, who reported them missing? I haven't seen yet. I don't know how that all happened regarding Dina and Rogelio. I don't know. I think what happened was Rogelio disappeared. I don't think they ever called the cops or anything at that point. I think Dina just went over to his house. And then when she didn't return is when people got a little nervous about the whole thing, and then the police got involved. I think that's how it happened. Michelle says government wills move slowly. That's true. But I know that I'm not a priority to them. I know that. I'm just some guy calling from Florida, and I'm talking to their legal department, and I am trying to get something, and I think I'm being courteous about it. I think I'm being nice about it. They're more than welcome to look up my credentials to see that I'm a serious guy. So if I can't get it, I'm not going to take it personally. If it gets rejected, it's not personal. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to still try to get it. Kimberly, welcome tonight. What's going on? Thanks for tuning in tonight. Let me answer another question, and then we're going to go to the next true crime news item for tonight, which is I think like a national story right now. Dorothy asks, best way to present leads to detectives. And she gave me an example in the group. Dorothy posted this question a few hours ago. I had a little time to think about it, not a lot. I think, if a family is working on its own, and you know how much I believe in that. I don't believe that families and friends should just sit back and let the police just do their work, especially when it comes to older cases, 5 years old, 10 years old, 20 years old. And also, of course, I don't believe in vigilante justice either. I don't want any families out there thinking some suspect did it and kidnapping the guy and, threaten him to feed him to hogs if he doesn't, confess or anything. I, of course, don't believe in that. That's big trouble. It's worst. Anybody who would do that is no better than the people who might have caused the disappearance in the first place. But the way that you go to the police with anything that you've collected is that you just can't, my opinion is you just can't go to them with anything that you hear. I could probably use the case that I just talked about earlier, Lacey Wonderful's case. You're going to hear about, eventually when we do the interview, I'm thinking that you're going to hear about a lot of rumors and innuendos and theories and everything else. And that happens in a lot of the cases that I cover. And if you are a family member and you're out there trying to get information, talking to people, you shouldn't take every little thing back to the police. Not that you're withholding things from them, but you should think about these things critically. Even though I know that your emotions are going to be involved, you're going to think that it's the best lead in the world. You're going to hear about how maybe a loved one was cut up in a wood chipper. You're going to hear they were fed to hogs. I mean, family members hear a lot of horrible, horrible stuff, and we've talked about that on this show. But I think family members need to be as objective as possible and think as critically as possible. And frankly, be very cynical about any information that they hear. Of course, never letting it on to the person that they're learning this information from. You learn something, you try to verify it. Okay? If somebody says that, well, I was at a party with 10 other people and I saw this happen to this person, well, just don't go run to the police with that. You should try to find out who the other people were at this party. Are any of them still alive? What are they doing now? Can you talk to them? Are they in jail? Have they changed their ways? You just can't take one person's statement from that when you're going to the police. Because if you go to them and say, I heard this, police pretty much, and you haven't backed it up with anything, they're just going to blow you off. And they're just going to do that. Now, you also have to keep something else in mind, is that most information regarding disappearance cases is collected early on. Probably if the police take it seriously at all, within the first few weeks. And as you can imagine, as the case gets older and older and older, fewer and fewer leads pop up, fewer and fewer evidence pops up, to the point where, you know, the police aren't getting anything anymore. And that's one of the reasons they move on to other things. So people also, if they're doing the work on their own, should not think that any information that they get is absolutely stunning, new lead information. It may be something that the police have already looked into. It's just the family doesn't know about it. Okay? This is why I continue to say that if you are a family member, a family who's trying to find out what happened to a loved one, and you want to start doing this and talking to people and everything, you have to start with the basics and learn all of this stuff for yourself, because there's going to be most things that the police aren't going to tell you. And like I said, there are going to be many things that the police know that they're not going to tell you. But here's what I do know. If you do find something and you can back it up, all right, and it's a solid lead, and you bring it to the police, and you can give your reasons that if you have a recording of a conversation, if you know this, if you know that, I have complete faith that the police will eventually look into it, even though they may not take you seriously to start. And sometimes the police are going to be, maybe need to be hit over the head a couple times before they pay attention to you. But whatever, if a case is 10 years old, whatever a family would do over the course of a month or a couple months regarding a disappearance is more than the police probably have done in the last 5 years. And if nothing else, it gives a family something to do instead of just sit at home and, you know, and run all these scenarios through their heads. You get out in the public, you're talking to people, you're making connections. You never know who you're going to meet. But my main point would be, just don't run to the police every time you hear something. All right? You need to collect information, take it home, talk about it. What do you think? Does this sound believable? Well, it sounds to me maybe like we need to go talk to this person over here. You know, that's, if you do that and you can show the police that you've done that, they will take you much more seriously instead of you just running to them every day with this, you know, that week's theory. I think that's what I've learned. Shannon asks, hello from Kentucky. Have you followed anything on the missing Crystal Rogers from Bardstown? I'm close by. I wonder your take on that. You know, the name is familiar, Shannon, but I don't know a lot about that case. The name is familiar, but that's about it. I have to admit. Kelly says, I've worked on Congressional FOIA Office for a government agency, and they're always understaffed and overworked, but they're all hard workers and on top of the requests. Kelly, that's why I'm giving them time. You should know my first FOIA got rejected. So they rejected it pretty fast. But I think they might have misunderstood. I don't know if I maybe didn't word it the right way, Kelly. And that's why I'm trying to get someone in their legal department to help me write the FOIA the right way so I can get my hands on the information. How's that? It's one way. I mean, there's more than one way to skin a cat, although I love cats and would never skin one. It's not a matter, I think, them being understaffed or overworked. I think it's a matter of they got to it very quickly and they rejected it, and I think they might have rejected it for the wrong reasons. And that's why I'm trying to get it right the next time. Shuri says, I think in regards to what I was just saying about the family and police, that's why the family needs someone independent. True. That's true. So, and sometimes that works with a private investigator. If it's a good one, a lot of them aren't very good. But I am so very old fashioned that I think that if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. Especially, if it's a situation where maybe the family knows a lot of the people involved. And what I always try to tell family members is that you need to find those people who want to talk to you and be honest with you. Okay, you want to know the people that you can go to. Try to figure that out. Who are the people that you can go to that you think you can trust? Of course, knowing that you have to be suspicious of everybody. Instead of, don't talk to the people who you think are going to lie to you, because all they're going to do is spin stories, and it's going to send you on off these different tangents. What you want to do is collect the information and then go to that person who's a suspect, if they're even going to talk to you. Try to catch him in some lies. Because that would be more, if the case is 20 years old, that would be more than the police are doing at that point. Barbara says, thank you for the cat skinning disclaimer. Hey, I know my audience, Barbara. I know my audience. I know it. A lot of pet lovers out there, animal lovers, and I love animals too. I don't have the patience to have one of my own. I can watch Kobe for a week. That's no problem. But I love animals. Animals love me. But that's why I certainly had to put in that cat skinning disclaimer. Angel says, sorry, missed a lot. Neighbor drama. Angel, don't worry about it. You can pick it up on YouTube later. The other news item I wanted to talk about was Tyler Perry. You know, this actor, Tyler Perry. He is raising awareness once again for the disappearances of Philippe Santos and Terrence Williams down in Naples, Florida from back in 2003 into 2004. And I just have to interrupt for a second. Angel says, Ed, your do looks different. Angel, the reason my do looks different, I talked about this at the top of the show, no big deal, I'll answer it for you, is because I didn't put any goop in my hair. I didn't put any gel in it tonight. I'm over here at my brother's. I brought the stuff with me, just didn't have time to do it, and I looked at my hair and I said, well, that's just going to have to be good enough tonight. And this is what my hair looks like naturally. It's got this little Farrah Fawcett thing going on from 1977, and somebody said it was like a surfer look, which I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what somebody said. But Angel, you're right. My do does look different because there's nothing in my hair. But Tyler Perry, originally when these guys disappeared, got involved, and he had a reward of $100,000. Well, now, just within the last couple days, he is raising awareness about these guys' disappearances again, and he has raised the reward amount to $200,000. And he and a lawyer who works with him are now, maybe they filed it or trying to file, they're filing a civil lawsuit against Stephen Calkins. Now, if you don't know about these two disappearances, I'm going to tell you, maybe it'll ring a bell. Philippe Santos disappeared. He was in a truck wreck. He was driving. He was in the country as an undocumented citizen, or however you want to put it, not getting into politics, illegal immigrant, was not supposed to be here, however you want to put it. All right. And Stephen Calkins was a cop at the time, and he claims that he put Philippe Santos in his car and drove him down to the Circle K and then let Philippe off. Well, the problem is Philippe was never seen again. Philippe's family filed a complaint against this cop, and eventually the Stephen Calkins was let out of any responsibility. As far as the investigation into it, all they could tell that Steve Calkins was telling the truth. That he took this Philippe, after this wreck, he took Philippe over to the Circle K, even though on the Circle K there's no video there that shows Philippe Santos on the video. Well, not long after Stephen Calkins was cleared of any wrongdoing in Philippe Santos's disappearance, Terrence Williams disappeared. And it was kind of under the same circumstances where Stephen Calkins, the cop, pulled Terrence Williams over in his Cadillac, and he didn't have a license, didn't have registration. It wasn't even Terrence's car. And what Stephen Calkins claims is that Terrence Williams was having car trouble, and he offered to take Terrence over to that same Circle K that he took Philippe to and drop him off so he could call somebody or whatever. Well, Terrence Williams disappeared. And likewise, nobody at the Circle K ever saw, well, there is a story that one person did see Stephen Calkins and Terrence Williams there. But that sighting is highly in doubt. And so these are two guys who within a couple months of each other disappeared. And Stephen Calkins was seemingly a cop in the Naples area, was the last one to see both of them. And as you can imagine, there were stories, what Stephen Calkins said, his story didn't quite add up. And in either case, well, he eventually got fired as a cop. And he's a free man, though, to this day. I don't know what he's doing down there south of me. But it's been 14 years. He's still a free man. I think that Disappeared actually did an episode on Terrence's disappearance. But I know that they talked about Felipe Santos in it too, and saying, now I remember that case. Oh, yeah. And Sarah says she remembers it as well. Carrie says, goop, that's what you call it too? Great, goop goes in your hair. Ashley, thank you for joining me tonight, joining the rest of us. Thank you. And Sarah, well, this is that case. Well, Tyler Perry is now raising awareness again, and he's raised the reward money to $200,000. And is trying to file a civil lawsuit against Stephen Calkins because Stephen Calkins is now lawyered up. I think he took some lie detector tests back at the time, and it showed that he was nervous during it. Obviously, something happened here. Something. Either that or this cop is like the most unluckiest guy in the world. What I would recommend to Tyler Perry is that rewards don't do anything. If a person isn't going to be motivated to come forward $100,000, upping it to $200,000 isn't going to change anything. $100,000 is a lot of money to most people in the United States. That's usually enough for somebody to come forward. All right, they're not all, Bill Gates, where he looks at $100,000 that like us looking at a penny. $100,000 is enough money for anyone to come forward. Me personally, I would just ditch the reward. And if he has that money to put up and everything, I would say that he'd be better off to start organizing, paying people to show up and do search parties and do things like that than offer a reward. That's what I would be telling him. In addition, I don't know if this lawsuit is going to go through because, at least in United States law, I think you have to have standing. I mean, it has to be a case where the person filing the lawsuit has been personally damaged in some way to, like in the OJ case, let's say, where, his ex-wife's family and Ron Goldman's family could file a lawsuit against because they were damaged. They lost their loved ones. They could do that. Tyler Perry and his lawyer doing it, I don't know where that's going to go, if anywhere, really. Of course, the other thing that I think about regarding this is that, could there be some sort of vigilante justice against this cop, which I, of course, would not be in favor of. Do I think that he probably did something to those men? Yes. Do I agree that Tyler Perry, in his position, helps in raising awareness to these disappearances? Yes. However, my opinion, once again, just after 2 years of 100 disappearance cases, he's probably better off putting his money and his time into other things regarding this case. We know, and all of you are smart. You follow these missing persons cases too. You know that rewards rarely work. Really, all it does is bring more kooks out of the woodwork that don't know anything. So, be much better off to put the money toward other things. Start organizing search parties, and maybe even putting putting cash on the street. Things like that for any information about Stephen Calkins himself instead of offering a reward. My opinion, it just, after 14 years, if $100,000 doesn't do something, what's $200,000 going to do? I just don't know. Tracy says, that case stinks big time, just my opinion. Kimberly says, is this where they talk about cops doing the Starlight tours being? I'm not familiar with that, Kimberly. Sue says, I agree, but it's Tyler Perry's name will bring more awareness. Absolutely. And I'm fine with that. But, if he has $100,000 to throw around, I just think there are better ways to use it. That's what I'm saying. 2 cops lost their jobs over Starlight tours where I live in Canada. Say, I don't know anything about these Starlight tours. I apologize. I just don't. Maybe somebody will type that out and can explain it to me. I appreciate that. I think the money Tyler Perry puts out gives the family hope. Maybe, but I'm looking for constructive answers. I think hope is great. But we have to start I think after 14 years, you have to start looking about things that are constructive, that actually have a proven record of working, if you actually want to solve it. And I think what gives family hope, if you want to give family hope, let's get some boots on the ground. Let's start paying some people, get them on a payroll. Let's get them out there. Let's start them marching around, paying them a decent wage. $100,000 can go a long way. And maybe pay some scuba divers to come in to look around in some, marshes and ponds and things down there, things like that. I think that's what Tyler Perry could be doing in his position. Shaney, what's going on? Christy says that money is just only going to bring in tips that go nowhere. That's what I suspect. Barbara says Culkin is still out there and dangerous if he killed those people. I agree. Dee Dee says tonight on Unfound Live, convenience store disappearances. Dee Dee, you're killing me tonight. Great question, and then that comment. Spectacular. Good work tonight, Dee Dee. Great work. Great work. A Starlight tour is where cops pick someone up and drop them far out in the country. Well, okay. All right. I don't think that's what happened in this case. I don't think that these guys got dropped off. If they got dropped off far out in the country, I think it's probably because they weren't alive anymore. I think. Shuri says she never heard of Starlight tours. Either way, I guess we learned something tonight, Shuri. I'm going to have to look that up afterwards, Starlight tours. So I just wanted to talk about Tyler Perry. Anytime a famous person is going to be involved in raising awareness for missing persons cases, I'm all for that. If I could tell him, I think there's just maybe, once again, my expertise. Maybe I should tweet him or something. Email him, tweet him, get a hold of his agent. Maybe I could offer some tips. I'm going to have to think about that. That might be a good idea. So there's the Tyler Perry story. Let's talk about this week's case. I don't know how many of you have been with the program since day one. I'm going to take for granted that maybe a lot of you have gone, if you maybe came in like halfway through, maybe after the first year or something, you went back and eventually listened to all the episodes. But if you haven't, I will be replaying the interview that was the first interview I ever did that you ever heard on Unfound, and that was the disappearance of Suzanne Lyle. I'm doing that because this Friday will be the second anniversary of the first ever episode of Unfound, which was the disappearance of Suzanne Lyle. I do this for a few reasons. One, to remind myself and kind of all of you where it all started. I was, as I say in the episode, I was just a guy with an idea, a microphone, and a Mac Mini to record on. And I do it for that reason, just to show you how far we've come. Since that case, there have been like over 100 episodes, and we've covered almost 100 cases. And but what will be different about this episode is I'm going to offer new commentary at the end of it. that just has to do with how I think Suzanne Lau's case, being the first one, was so appropriate given all of the cases that we've covered since. So you're going to hear the original interview that was conducted sometime in August of 2018 or 2016. And then afterwards, you're going to hear my summation that was recorded this week. New summation regarding everything that's gone on the last 2 years. I also think I should do this because Mary Lau herself has been so supportive of the program. I think I talked about this when I did the update episode back in July, that she's been so supportive of the program. She sent a lot of families my way. When I called her, I was a nobody, a complete stranger, didn't know hardly anything about missing persons cases. And here I am talking to this woman who had at that time been living with it for over 18 years, and she showed me so much respect that I think that one way to honor her and her daughter is to play that episode, at least the interview, again. I think that's the right thing to do on this 2-year anniversary. Now, I will say something else. I hope that this time next year, I don't have to play it again. I hope between now and this time next year that Suzanne's case gets solved. And if that's the case, I'm sure I can figure out something else to do for the 3rd anniversary. So I will be hoping that the case gets solved in the next year and that I won't have to play it again next year, because as long as that case is unsolved, you can guarantee that that interview is always going to be played on the anniversary of the airing of Unfound's first episode. That's always going to happen. Okay? I think it keeps me grounded. It reminds me of a time when interviews and trying to people find was a lot harder than it is now. It reminds me of a time when probably I don't think I was as good an interviewer as I am now. And I think it also reminds me that how much I didn't know at the time, and it also reminds me now that I still have a lot to learn. Okay? So you're going to hear my interview with Mary Lau this coming Friday, once again with new commentary at the end. Let's see what's your thoughts on Christopher Watts being on suicide watch? Makes sense to me. I don't want him to be able to commit suicide and get out of here easily. You know, I want to see him go to trial. I'd like to see that guy spend a few years in jail the rest of his life for what I believe he did. So, you know, he obviously is not a very good guy. I don't want him to commit suicide, though. Shannon says, Neil Stonechild froze to death allegedly as a result of a Starlight tour in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. Several other people have accused police of the same treatment. They're all Indigenous Canadians. Well, we just did an Indigenous Canadian case with Bonnie Joseph from last week. And next Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday, we're going to do another case involving a woman who disappeared, who was a First Nation member from Canada. So, but I don't think either of those cases had anything to do with Starlight tours. I don't think. Sherry says, I say cry me a river, Chris, regarding Chris Watts. I agree. And Shannon says, I'm glad to hear that you were replaying their interview with Suzanne Lau's mother, Mary. I can no longer find it in your archives. It's there. Okay. It's there. It's there. We're going to play it again. Maybe, Shannon, it might depend on what app you're using. It just depends. So is Linda Kramer. Linda Kramer says, so is Linda Kramer. I don't know what that means, Linda, but it's kind of funny. Okay. But I think that I'm going to call it that. We're over an hour and 4 minutes. So you know how I like to, even though I let the regular episodes go for as long as they take, when it comes to this, after about an hour, I think that, that's a good showing for every Wednesday night, right? About an hour. That's good. So what we do tonight, I'm at remote location over at my brother's. I told you where I was this past week in Altoona, Florida, checking out some locations that have to do with the disappearance of Lacey Wonderful. you can look that case up, and I'm sure that within the next month that will be a case on Unfound. This Friday, of course, the second anniversary of the first airing, and this, of course, Labor Day week, which is usually a very busy week for kids and parents. Very usually, in my experience, a very horrible week or 10 days of downloads and things because everybody's so busy getting back to school and things, which is fine. And we got the business, wearing the shirt, books, playing cards, makeplayingcards.com, and my the Patreon and PayPal accounts for Unfound. I deeply appreciate all the support. We talked about this missing persons case, a brother and sister who went missing on different days in the Houston and Galveston area. Dina and Rogelio, or is it Rogelio? I don't know. Rogelio Escobar. We talked about Tyler Perry and him raising the reward in the disappearances of Felipe Santos and Terrence Williams, which happened right down the road a couple hours south of where I am right now. And then I previewed this Friday's case, which is a replaying of my interview with Mary Lyle that I conducted in August 2016. And then the commentary will be recorded this week, new commentary to go along with that case. So if there isn't anything else, I'm going to leave you for tonight, and you will hear me Friday at 2 o'clock. And I'll be looking for all of you on the page and in the group. So there you go. I'm going to leave now. It's been great talking to you. Shuri says, tweet Tyler. I'm going to think about that, Shuri. And I appreciate all of you tuning in tonight. It means so much to me. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to be trying to add some new YouTube stuff, some more cases on there. So I appreciate all the places that you're listening and watching. I cannot thank you all enough. Good night, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Great show. Thank you. You make favorite time of the week. You know I say this every week. You make the show great. Favorite time of the week to talk to all of you. Good night.